Hi, I'm Dave Sokup. When I was sitting as a Superior Court judge in Seattle 30 years ago, I tried all kinds of cases, civil cases, criminal cases, and cases at juvenile court. When I tried a civil case, the case would go on for days. If we didn't finish in one day, we'd come back the next day and continue until it was over. At the end of the case, I'd make a decision, often awarding thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to one party from another party. And that would be the case. I would go home. I wouldn't wake up at 4 o'clock the next morning thinking about that case. I'd just go on to the next case. And then I was assigned to sit at juvenile court. I walked in the first morning and I was told by the staff, Judge Sokup, this is a light calendar today. You only have 8 hearings on this morning's calendar. The first case involved a little 3-year-old girl named Sarah. She'd been referred because the doctors at Harborview Hospital emergency room had thought that the pattern of bruises on her little body indicated that she was being physically abused. Her mother said, no, she fell off a slide, and anyway, my boyfriend isn't living with us anymore. I threw him out of the house. Now, I had to make a decision in this little girl's case. Was I going to take her out of the only home, away from the only parent she'd known for the 3 years of her life, and what kind of emotional trauma would that cause for her? Or was I going to return her to a home that I didn't know was going to be safe for her to be? And hurry up, because you've only got a little time to decide this case. There's 7 more waiting out in the lobby. And I looked around the courtroom, and there was no one there whose only job was to investigate Sarah's case and come into court and speak for her to tell us what was the best decision for Sarah that would affect the rest of her life. When I left juvenile court at the end of the day, I knew I was going to wake up at 4 o'clock the next morning thinking about Sarah and 2 or 3 other kids on that calendar, and I did. So I got the idea of recruiting and training community volunteers to appear in court, investigate cases, and recommend what was best for these kids. I thought if we were lucky, we could get a volunteer for Sarah and maybe 30 or 40 or 50 other kids. Well, 30 years later, there's 50,000 of you wonderful volunteers. And there are being 225,000 kids served every year by you. I wondered who you marvelous volunteers were, and then Mercedes Lowry, a former staff member at National CASA, wrote a poem called The Advocate, which explains this. This is not about rescue so as to feel good when the child lights up with a smile. This is not about the comfort of compassion. This is hard work, struggling with ripped families and children in clouds of pain, anger dancing around their hearts, in the turmoil of a world made crazy. This is caring, yes, but also what is just, what should be demanded. It takes love and a certain measure of courage, and in the simple act of person helping person, it becomes extraordinary. Thank you to you extraordinary volunteers for what you do for these kids.
A starfish story. Once a man was walking along a beach. The sun was shining. It was a beautiful day. Off in the distance, he could see a person going back and forth between the surf's edge and the beach. As he got closer, he noticed that the person was reaching down to the shore and picking up small objects and throwing them into the ocean. Back and forth this person went. As the man approached even closer, he could see that there were hundreds of starfish stranded on the sand. The man was struck by the apparent futility of the task. There were far too many starfish. Many of them were sure to perish. As he approached, the person continued the task of picking up starfish one by one, and throwing them back into the surf. As he came up to the person, he said, "There are so many miles of beach, covered with so many starfish. You can't possibly make a difference." The person looked at the man and smiled. He then stooped down and picked up one more starfish and placed it back into the sea. He turned back to the man and said, "It makes a difference to that one."